Hello and welcome along to another of the Vita Health podcasts. I'm Glenn Tomset. We call these vodcasts, and it's nice to see you. And we're welcoming along today Lisa Jelly. Lisa is one of the Vita team members, and she's Director of Transformation. Lisa, welcome. Nice to see you. That sounds a glorious title, Director of Transformation. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, hi Glenn, thanks. So it's got a couple of parts to it. So I work with a brilliant team, and we're responsible for mobilising new community healthcare services, specifically in mental health or physio or dermatology, or on behalf of the NHS. And so that's the mobilisation side of the job. And then the other side is we get to transform our current services. So potentially bring in a new digital innovation or a new clinical pathway. And it's a pretty exciting job. I get to work with some amazing people across the business and also some external stakeholders as well. So yeah, very lucky.
Well, you're here today to tell us about a lifelong ambition. Tell us what that's going to be.
So in 11 days, not that I'm counting, I am flying out to Nepal and hopefully going to be climbing Everest.
Wow, climbing Everest. A lot of prep involved for that, and I'm guessing you're pretty fit, are you, in terms of climbing up those mountains?
I hope so. This 2 weeks out, I hope I'm pretty prepared. There's an element of both physical and mental fitness involved to make sure you're as prepared as you can be for Everest. It's a mountain that I massively respect, and so have tried to do as much preparation as possible in the lead up to it over. It's been 6 years of training. So, probably the longest thing I've ever prepared for.
Okay. I mean, the Midlands, there's not that many mountains in the Midlands unless you head over towards Wales, I guess. But, I mean, how have you been practicing for that?
A lot of driving to various different peaks that are close to the Midlands, I guess. So, Brecons in the South Wales, over in Snowdonia in North Wales, the Lake District. But also just some local hills that I end up having to go up and down several times just to try and get the elevation. Stairwells in car parks is not the most glamorous way of training, but it obviously gets the elevation in the legs. So yeah, lots of preparation. I've kind of been doing a 6-month training plan, which has been specific for Everest, which combines various different things. So some time in the gym doing core work, a lot of hours on the Stairmaster, and a little bit of upper body work, but not too much strength. And then a lot of time out in the hills at the weekends when I can get to places.
So what made you 6 years ago? What made you want to do this? What triggered that decision?
Probably a couple of things. So probably about 10 years ago, I ended up joining an expedition to climb Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, and absolutely fell in love with it. I thought I would like it. I've always been quite sporty, always loved to travel, always liked to go to really remote places. So I thought I'd enjoy it, but I absolutely loved it. And it was more the journey of getting to the summit. Standing on top of the summit of mountains is amazing, and it's definitely icing on the cake for me. The thing that really drives me to do this repeatedly is the actual journey of getting there, the people you meet. You end up joining a team, and within a couple of days you're all best friends because you've only got each other on the mountain. So I think that Kilimanjaro expedition really made me think, actually, I love this and I want to do something else. And it just escalates. So I then wanted to do Mont Blanc after that, a bit more technical, a bit more of a glacier travel. So you have to be in rope teams, a bit of sort of technical scrambling. And again, did that expedition, loved it, and thought, actually, what else can I do now? And I hope my mum never listens to this, because what she doesn't know is that I actually went to pick her up from her having dinner with her friends, and they'd all been talking about the recent trip to Mont Blanc. And one of her colleagues said, would you ever try Everest? And I took that comment and said, no, definitely not, no chance, thinking that I wasn't technically able to do it. And that obviously then thought, actually, maybe I'll just do a bit of investigation and see what technique and capabilities you do need. And that kind of inspired then a 5-year training plan, which actually would have been to last year. So the idea was to try and climb Everest by the time I was 35. COVID put a bit of a blocker to that. So I'm 36 in May this year, so it would be a pretty epic birthday celebration to have summited, got back down to base camp, and then celebrate on my birthday in base camp.
And how do you train for altitude? Because you're up there quite high, aren't you? If you're going to go to the summit, which I'm guessing you will, that's the whole object of the exercise. I mean, what about that altitude? Because that's all, got to take that sort of on board mentally as well as physically, haven't you?
You do, and to be honest, unless you're going to do a load of training in an altitude chamber, which I haven't done, you can't really train for it. So even somebody that performs really, really well at 7,000, 8,000 metres, in the following year they might not perform so well. So it's completely different, and it's not related to fitness either. A lot of people that are really physically fit really struggle at altitude. I think the way that I've sort of approached it is I've gone to altitude so far. So the highest I've been is just over 7,100 metres, so Peak Lenin in Kyrgyzstan, because I wanted to see how my body responded. And I think for me, a lot of the training is about understanding your body, understanding how you react, how it feels, but also knowing what to do and how to prevent altitude sickness. So drinking lots of water, looking after yourself, not getting ill, going slow, making sure you do all of the acclimatization runs as effectively as you can do, conserving energy, all the things that you can read about in podcasts or listen to in podcasts or read about, but actually it's then enacting it when you're in those pretty harsh environments at times. So that's probably been my training for it, that I've been there, I've tried to follow all of those plans as much as possible, and hopefully I can replicate that on the Everest expedition as well.
So the descent then, so you're at the top there, or the ascent, how long is that going to take you to complete?
So we fly into Lukla on the 1st of April, and then it's a beautiful 10-day trek through the Cumbria Valley to Everest Base Camp, and that's obviously then our base for the main expedition. And then you tend to do rotations going through the various different camps. So there are 4 camps on the mountain, and you try and go through various different of those camps, sleeping at different heights to get your body acclimatized. And I think at the moment our aim for our summit window is around about the 13th of May. So we can be on the mountain up until the 2nd of June. Hopefully it won't be that long. But there's so many things that can impact an expedition and timelines that you just can't control, weather being a prime one. So 2 months is the expedition.
2 months. Okay, well, sincere good luck to you with that whole climb. That's an amazing thing to do. I'll take my hat off to you. But we mentioned the physical side of it. Let's talk more about the mental challenges it presents, because you're up there. You're a long way up there. All sorts of thoughts must, I would imagine, go through your head. I'm not going to know until you've been there, and perhaps we could have another chat afterwards. But, what sort of things are you thinking might crop up?
All sorts. But I think from a mental perspective, that is definitely the biggest challenge, way more so than physical. From what I understand, I'll let you know afterwards. But I think for me, it's all been about preparation. So 6 years ago, when I thought actually maybe I could do Everest, my first thought was, right, how many years do I need to prepare for it, and what expeditions do I need to go on to prepare for it? And all of that was from a mental preparation perspective. So last year I had a pretty epic expedition in Kyrgyzstan, which didn't end up with a summit, but actually I probably learned more from that expedition than any of the others put together, because it went slightly wrong because of weather. So we were up at 6,000 metres, got caught in a storm, and we had to get off the mountain pretty much in the darkness through some crazy conditions. But mentally, I was able to take each hour at that point, each hour as it came, and to try and focus on technique and keeping safe and keeping well and hydrated and eating and all the basics. And I think that's one of the things that, for me, mountaineering, that I love most about, is it strips away all the complexities of life, and it just goes completely back to the basics of surviving and enjoying it at the same time. And I think from a mental resilience perspective, that's what I focus on. And the
What
people.
about communication? We live in a world now where we're constantly on our mobile devices. I mean, you're up so high, I'm guessing you can't get a mobile phone signal up at that sort of altitude. I mean, what about communication? Is it via satellite phone?
Yeah, so the team will have a sat phone with us. It's amazing actually how much connection there is in Everest, more so than in some of the other mountains and mountain ranges that I've been to. But actually, I quite like that. I love the fact that I have an excuse almost to disconnect from all of the tech. My family might not agree so much, but yeah, there's been often times when I've gone on an expedition to Aconcagua, as an example, 3 weeks, and I didn't open my phone up once from the moment I landed to the moment I got back on the plane. And that complete simplicity was amazing.
Your family must be worried. I mean, what sort of things will worry you, do you think?
Probably just the things that you can't control, but because of the nature of the fact that you can't control them, there's almost no point in worrying about them. So it's that sort of cycle that I go through. I think from a weather perspective, this has been a long time coming. I've put a lot of focus of where my annual leave has gone and all the training and things that I've, all the financial side of it, that it all culminates in this one chance. So I guess there's a lot of pressure that I've put on myself for trying to achieve this. But again, at the same time, for me, it's about the journey more so than standing on top of the summit. It would be incredible if I could, don't get me wrong. But I think, yeah, the worry is you can't worry about things that you can't control. So it's trying to focus your mind on what you can control and just take each day as it comes.
Okay, well, it sounds like you're preparing really well for it. Finally, Lisa, tell us about some of the other charities you're involved in.
Yeah, so actually, mountaineering has been a huge part of my life for quite a long time now. But probably one of the most exciting things that I've been involved with over the last 2 years is a charity called Lahara. So Lahara was inspired by a podcast that I listened to a couple of years ago, having been training up in the Lake District, and it was all about sustainable giving. And I'd recently just come back from Nepal from a trekking experience over there. And I came up with an idea of opening up a sports massage service in Namche, which is the main town in the Khumbu Valley in the Everest region. But the idea was that this sports massage service would be fully staffed by local Sherpas, and I would set up a school that would train up those Sherpas in how to be sports massage therapists and be able to earn a really good living by having this skill and being able to apply it. And then I think one of the magical things about it is that a lot of the money that this service is going to generate, so a lot of the revenue, will be able to then be the financial input to other organisations and charities in the Khumbu Valley. So it's a very sustainable charity that then supports other charities financially as well. So it's kind of bringing together all my passions that I have of mountaineering, travel, remote communities, but also my professional skill set of delivering community healthcare services. So yeah, I feel very lucky and excited to be involved in it. And especially the fact that the home of it is going to be in the Everest region.
You're a lady who keeps extremely busy, aren't you? You really are. Now, one more question. I said that was the final question. I've got to ask you, finally, if you do conquer Everest, and I'm sure you will because I can see the determination in your eyes, where next? I mean, Everest surely has to be the pinnacle. What's the next challenge for you?
Now, I definitely hope my parents aren't going to listen to this. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Lahara, the charity, will definitely be a focus. I do like to keep busy. I think if you sort of speak to any of my colleagues or friends, I'm always on something. There are a couple of others that I would like to climb. Amadablam, which is known as the Matterhorn of the Himalayas. It's a stunning mountain. I would love to have a chance of that expedition. Kantengri, which was the experience that went slightly wrong last year. I'd like to go back and see if I can change the outcome of that expedition. But I think, yeah, Vita have been incredibly supportive all the way through. I've worked with Vita now for the last 2 years, and all my colleagues have shown a real interest in some of the things that I do. I think they all think I'm crazy, but they at least show an interest. and have been incredibly supportive in terms of the time that I need to do all the training and go on these expeditions. So yeah, I think I might need to have a couple of years off from the big expeditions before planning the next.
Excellent. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and sincere best wishes and good luck to you on the Everest climb. I'm sure you'll do extremely well. Do let us know how it goes. Lisa Jelly, Director of Transformation, Vita Health Group, thanks for joining us on today's vodcast.
Amazing. Thanks, Glenn.